Final presenter, last but not least, and these were random, but he's W, so he's probably been last many times in his academic career. Peter Walker. Peter is a Regional Branch Services Manager with OSU Federal Credit Union in Corvallis, Oregon. Let's hear it for Peter.
Thank you. In case you hadn't noticed, it has somehow become uncool to sound like you know what you're talking about, or believe strongly in what you're, saying. Invisible question marks and parenthetical you knows and you know what I'm sayings have been attaching themselves to the ends of our sentences, even when those sentences aren't like questions, you know? Declarative sentences, so called because we used to declare things to be true, okay? As opposed to other things that are totally, not, have been infected by this totally hip and tragically cool interrogative tone, as if I'm saying, don't think I'm a nerd just because I've noticed this, okay? I have nothing personally invested in my own opinions. I'm just inviting you to join me on the bandwagon of my own uncertainty. What has happened to our conviction? Where are the limbs out on which we once walked? Have they been chopped down with the rest of the rainforest? You know? Or do we have nothing to say? Has society become so totally, absolutely, whatever, that we've just gotten to the point where we've become the most aggressively inarticulate generation to come along since, a long time ago? So I entreat you, I exhort you, and I challenge you to speak with conviction, to say what you believe in a manner that bespeaks the determination with which you believe it, because contrary to the wisdom of the bumper sticker, it is not enough these days to simply question authority. You have to speak with it too. So I didn't actually write that. It's from Taylor Mawley. He's a slam poet and middle school teacher. If you don't know what a slam poet is, you can come talk to me later. But I encountered his work not long ago, and when I learned I'd be presenting here in Florida, I immediately thought of this poem. I think it illustrates well the responsibility we carry, the next generation of credit union leadership, as we look to the future of not only the credit union movement, but the entire financial services industry. Over the course of this competition, I've been talking a lot about the APEX Awards, Achieving Performance Excellence. I've been involved with APEX since its inception 10 years ago, so keeping momentum and focus has become increasingly important to me as I've helped lead the program's implementation. Awarding for excellence is part of our commitment to passionate storytelling that engages team members and reinforces our culture. It's critical that we commit ourselves to telling our stories, to speaking with conviction and passion, and even with authority, as we share with one another and our member owners about who we are and what our values are. That's still kind of countercultural for too many credit union people. We don't want to sound like bankers, so we present ourselves passively, And because we don't want to sound arrogant, the world doesn't see or hear the pride we have in providing an alternative model for financial services. One where the little guys and gals, such a small piece of the financial services pie, actually balance our credit structure, providing choice and opportunity where consumers might otherwise encounter closed doors. Today, when we talk about who a company is and what it stands for, we typically get a vision statement or a mission statement, and those are important identifiers to have. At OSU Federal, our vision is creating financial solutions to make lives better. It's our mantra. We repeat it regularly to focus ourselves and create alignment. But without stories, real stories about real people, our visions and missions become just words on a wall, propositional statements that are too easily given lip service. It's our stories that bring corporate vision to life. So I want to tell you a story. 2008 was a tough year for Shirda. Her husband passed away unexpectedly, leaving her the sole owner of a stone paving business and a house with 5 acres. At the same time, the economy took a downturn and business slowed. Suddenly, Shirda's finding it hard to make her mortgage payments. Shirda contacted her mortgage holder and her bank to discuss refinancing options. But she quickly found that being a widow came with a certain stigma and too many closed doors. Desperate, she took a second job and started looking for lenders online. After paying for 2 home appraisals and getting turned down multiple times, she felt like she was out of options. That's when she turned to her friends. Shirda's friends told her about David Lambert, a loan officer at OSU Federal. She met with David, and he listened to her story. After they looked at her finances, they found she could requalify for the refinance she needed. Shirda said, "I felt like David was personally invested in my situation." When the refinance was complete, she was able to save $1,200 a month. So we listened to her story, and now she helps us tell ours. That's Shirda on our website. Credit unions serve as advocates because we serve our member owners, but how well are we telling that story? Each year we employ different campaigns to raise awareness about the Apex Awards, and we incorporate those into our weekly team huddles where new information and procedures are shared. There's a few examples of one of our campaigns. I offered to model for that one, but they said I didn't have the chest hair for it. But we reflect on stories of excellence. Who made your day? How did you make someone else's? An Apex story that stands out to me is about Heather Barnes. As a financial services consultant at our Lebanon branch, Heather epitomized the award for outstanding community contribution. For well over a decade, Heather has served as a leader of the Lebanon JCs. She's been personally responsible for the production of the annual Lebanon Distinguished Service Awards. And the 100-year-old famous Lebanon Strawberry Parade wouldn't be the same without Heather's tireless efforts. When I asked Heather what Apex meant to her as a former winner, she wrote this: "The Apex Awards have made us all more aware of what our staff does on a daily basis. It helps keep it at the forefront of our minds. I'm more aware of the kindness, the extra step above and beyond, our job descriptions that people do every day. Apex reminds us of who we, the credit union, are." This concept of storytelling is resonating all over the world, and our competition here today is actually evidence of that. Cass Scott talks about using social networks to share booyah moments. And Cass, it sounds a lot cooler when you say it with an Aussie accent, so sorry. But Nate Muniz, he's passionate about increasing the political involvement of our movement, enlisting members to partner in our storytelling, because real stories about real-life people have the power to trump big money. But to tell our stories effectively and passionately externally, it is critical we cultivate corporate cultures that encourage internal storytelling. Apex. It started with our volunteer board. Staff make nominations, and our board chooses the winners each year. But lots of organizations have award ceremonies. What makes Apex unique is not the structure, it's the purpose. Through Apex, we have gotten better at telling our stories. At a recent presentation to the Northwest Credit Union Association, consultant Dr. Neil Goldman said that banks in our region had a net promoter score of -17. Credit unions, on the other hand, demonstrated an NPS of 49, a 66-point difference. But Goldman believes sooner or later the banks are going to figure out their mistakes, and they're going to come after us. So will we be ready? Will our teams know how to tell stories? Well, we have trained our members to tell stories for us. We have the market's attention. This is the time. Now. So I exhort each of you one last time. Speak with conviction. Speak with authority. Speak with passion. Tell stories. Foster environments where storytelling is the norm and celebrated. Make your story count. And for everybody back home at OSU Federal, don't forget this Friday is your last day to make nominations. Thank you.
Terrific work, Peter. So I'm going with Patrick first this time.
I already had predicted that. No, very impassioned presentation. Really, can you talk just maybe a little bit more about how this project specifically has changed your perspective about employee recognition? Because that's essentially what this is about.
It's about employee recognition, and we started with Apex 10 years ago, right as I was starting at the credit union. So I don't necessarily know differently, but I've been able to watch over a decade as Apex has really integrated into our culture. And I think what makes Apex so special is not just that it's very important for staff who are nominated. It's a huge honor to win each year. We have a big winter gala celebration. And staff, it really impacts their perceptions of their work and each other's work. But what I have watched and witnessed at OSU Federal is how staff are better able to articulate in very personal, real-life situational terms of what the credit union difference is and what OSU Federal does in our communities as a differentiator. So, the reason that I wanted to focus on that aspect of this project for this competition is because a lot of organizations have award ceremonies, but I think that this has really gone beyond great recognition, which it is, but it's undergirded, I think, everything we do as an organization that starts with why we do what we do.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Dee Dee.
Sure. So is there a theater in your background?
Yes, there is.
Yeah. Okay, great. Pete, share with me how one example of how you yourself are making a difference in the Apex Awards.
I think beyond just the logistical pieces of being on the committee and kind of leading efforts, it's really fallen on me to keep it constant awareness with staff. So in those meetings, helping to form what the discussions are going to look like about Apex and about just excellence and unsurpassed service. So I think that a lot of my passion and probably some of my sense of humor has filtered into the way that we talk about it and the way that we keep it at the forefront of staff consciousness. And I like to tell other people's stories. It means a lot to me when I go out into the community and people ask me, what's the credit union difference? I don't have to tell my story. I can tell the stories of people that I work with. And so that's huge. I think it removes positional differentiation when you're celebrating people at the front line.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Desreen, do you have a question?
Yes. Peter, cultures are different worldwide. If I were to take you back home to my credit union, is there any of the criteria for the Apex Award you would have changed based on our culture? And how?
Culture is so different, and I think it would be presumptuous for me to assume what I could take to your culture. And I think you're absolutely right. My jokes probably fell flat for some of you. And so knowing your audience is important. But like slam poetry, for instance. No, I mean, I think that there are things that you can take away from this regardless of the demographics of your organization or the geography of your organization. There's a book called Start With Why. It's by Simon Sinek. He's a speaker at TED Talks. And he talks about how people don't buy what you do, they follow why you do it. And regardless, again, of cultural context, our organizations need to understand from the bottom to the top why we do what we do. It's not just the daily tasks. It's not just our job description. It's the vision of what our organization is. And like I said in the speech, propositional statements, they're out there. It's theory until you have stories of what people are doing. And I think storytelling is universal.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Well, let's hear it for all of our contestants. Can I have them all come to the stage, please?